task force in Los Angeles has been investigating a surge in what's being referred to as follow home robberies. And these robberies are pretty terrible because it seems as though individuals who want to commit these robberies are kind of like stalking certain individuals as they're eating at cafes. If they look like they might have money, they'll follow them home and essentially rob them. Oftentimes there is a weapon involved. We've seen cases of victims being pistol whipped. I mean, it's awful. So the authorities wanted to investigate this and figure out, okay, what's behind it? Is there organized crime? And here's what we've learned. So according to Captain Jonathan Tippett, who spearheads the task force, police have identified at least 17 gangs, most based out of South LA and operating independently, that are involved. There were 165 such robberies in 2021, and so far this year, there have already been 56, including several over this past weekend. So in a 4-week period from September to October, there were 45 follow off or follow home robberies. In November, there were another 39, Tippett said. So shots have been fired in at least 23 of the cases, and yes, there have been fatalities. 2 victims have been killed, said Tippett, who also heads the LAPD's robbery homicide division, which investigates high profile crimes. So their report also got into some specifics. So look, we're gonna get into like the anecdotal evidence, which by itself doesn't mean much, right? Because it's very easy to take independent cases or a few stories and then kind of sensationalize, and I want to avoid doing that. But aside from looking at specific cases, I do think it's important to step back and take a look at what's happening in California overall when it comes to various crime trends that we're seeing. So first, the anecdotal stuff. So 18-year-old Matthew Adams was involved in 8, let me repeat that, 8 separate follow-off robberies over a 6-month period starting last fall. During the course of the 8 robberies, which occurred between September and February, Adams was arrested 3 times. The first time was on January 9th when Adams was found in a car that had been used in one of the robberies and where a gun was also found. Online court records show no charges were ever filed against Adams in that case. Okay, no, let's come to me. No charges were ever filed against Adams in that case. So he does the follow home robbery. He's in the car that he used to do the follow home robbery, and he has a weapon in that vehicle. Why weren't there any charges filed? I want to know. And this is a guy who has been in 8 of these follow home robberies. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that like justice? Is he being rehabilitated? Is this considered rehabilitation when you've been arrested 8 times and seem to have absolutely no remorse for what you're doing and victimizing these people? Imagine someone following you home with a gun to rob you. Okay, let me give you more details. Adams was arrested again on January 27th and a 3rd time on February 21st. And in both cases charged with illegal gun possession. Court records show he was ordered released each time without having to pay bail. The reason was a pandemic-related rule aimed at reducing the jail population that requires LA County defendants to be released without posting bail for certain offenses. Now look, totally cool with that if we're talking about nonviolent stuff. We're talking about a dude who has loaded weapons, follows people home, threatens them with the weapons to rob them. Okay, so if the argument here is, listen, our prison system in California is overcrowded, we're dealing with COVID, it's deadly, so we wanna limit the prison population in order to ensure that, people who are incarcerated are not getting sick and dying, I get that. But is there any monitoring to make sure that people who commit violent crimes don't do a similar crime later? Like, apparently there was nothing, no monitoring, nothing, okay? So you're free to go, you've done this 8 times, you're free to go, but it gets worse, more details. Adams was eventually charged on April 4th with 7 counts of robbery and 2 gun enhancements, and his bail was set at $450,000. He faces more than 20 years in state prison if convicted, okay? So authorities had obtained a warrant to search his home, and there were 2 other individuals that he would do these robberies with, Eric Wilson and Jan Sparks. And so they did this search of their homes, and I just want to show you the kind of weapons they found. So these are the kinds of weapons that they've been using to intimidate people as they rob them. Great, I feel real safe. This is awesome restorative justice, right? In a separate case, a man named Cheyenne Hale, 25, was arrested this month on suspicion of participating in the armed robbery of a man in downtown LA in October, in which 2 watches were stolen. Police said they recovered a loaded gun from Hale during his arrest, and that detectives in Tippett's unit later found 7 additional handguns, $21,000 in cash, and a large quantity of drugs, including cocaine and methamphetamine, when they served a search warrant at Hale's home. Now, I want to show you a disturbing video of what Hale and his buddies did to one individual in downtown LA. Okay, this is what the follow home or follow off robberies look like. Hale has since been released from custody, according to court records. So am I allowed to be upset about that? Does that do away with my lefty cred? And if it does, great, take my lefty cred away. That is not justice, that is not okay, and that does not keep a community safe. And worse yet, minimizing stuff like that reverses any possibility of passing real criminal justice reform that actually does make sense. So prominent activists think that these types of reports or being concerned about these types of issues is just buying into propaganda or sensationalism. I'll give you examples. One prominent activist, Hamid Khan, on Tuesday accused the LAPD of week after week of sensationalism about crime in the city, suggesting police were blowing crime trends out of proportion to maintain their grip on the city's budget. LAPD has to constantly legitimize itself, constantly has to make itself useful to the community by raising this specter of people running wild. I mean, I think there is an important use for policing. I think policing absolutely needs to be reformed. But I would love to ask Khan, what community do you live in? What kind of privilege offers you the safety that people in low income communities do not have the privilege of having? Who do you call when you're worried about someone committing a violent crime that'll victimize you? I wanna know, because you would call who? You would call authorities. They would be pretty useful in that situation. Like literally zero focus on reforming policing, but all the focus seems to be on minimizing these instances of serious violent crimes. I ain't here for that. And so I promised you I'd take a step back and give you actual numbers about what's happening in California, so we're not just focusing on 1 or 2 anecdotal pieces of evidence, right? So let's take a look at what's happening in Sacramento. In just Sacramento County from March 2020 through September 2021, 5,100 inmates were released on 0 bail. The total number of rearrests was 4,400. Awesome. Mary Kay Tibbetts was sexually assaulted and killed along with her 2 dogs in her Sacramento home in September. Her accused killer is Troy Davis. He had 2 felony strikes, but was still released without needing to pay bail just a few months prior. That's just Sacramento County. Maybe I'm being a little unfair. Maybe I'm being unfair. Let's go to San Diego. In San Diego County, repeat offenders are also common. It looks like close to 65% were rearrested after being released on 0 bail, District Attorney Summer Stephen said. And of those that were rearrested, 65% were also rearrested on a felony crime. This ain't it. This ain't it. This isn't rehabilitative at all. This is not restorative at all. And all this does is just paint a picture of the left as individuals who are totally fine, or activists, I should say, like Hamid Khan, paints them as individuals who are just totally fine with this kind of crime standing. Because like, to be quite honest with you guys, I don't know what kind of restorative programs are being implemented right now. So if people are being let off, right? Whether it's no cash bail, whether it's a refusal to prosecute, in an effort to substitute prosecution with other programs to help people out. Great. Where are the programs? I want to know the details about that. But there's a bunch of mealy-mouthed individuals who claim that there's restorative justice going on, and I don't see it. And it's infuriating because I don't want me as someone who wants criminal justice reform to be lumped in with individuals who minimize garbage like this. I ain't here for it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.